Hello there, people of the internet. I'm out here on the gun range, the 100-yard range, and I felt like shooting some rifles. So out here at the 100-yard range, I got me a good selection of Mausers right here, thanks to a good buddy of mine that is letting me use them. I'm not sure if he is foolish, but I'd like to think that he's at least encouraging. So I have a VZ24, I have a pre-war Mauser, and I have a current war 1944 production Kar98. And they're all chambered in 8mm Mauser. They're very, very similar rifles, and I figured I'd go ahead and I'd bring them out here, put some rounds down range, and honestly, I was gonna come out here and do this anyway. And I figured I'd bring the camera and bring you guys along for this trip. So the VZ24 is the earliest pattern of rifle that I have here, so this is the one that we're going to start off with. Obviously, anyone who knows anything about this rifle knows that it drew a lot of inspiration from the Mauser 98 that the Germans were using. Now, this is a shortened version of this rifle. There's a bunch of little tweaks with it. As a matter of fact, I'm noticing a couple little tweaks with it. Actually, before I go comparing the rifles, I'll go ahead and just talk about them one by one. VZ24, shortened version of what the Mauser 98 that the Germans were using in Germany, actually got inspiration from this rifle to make a shorter version of the rifle that they were using, and so they did. This right here is a pre-World War II example. This was made, according to the buddy that I'm borrowing this from the basement of a boutique shop, and it was made for postal services and things that weren't necessarily, you know, German military. The Treaty of Versailles said, hey, German military, you guys can't have the arms and equipment and development and whatnot that you guys want to have. So Germany was like, well, all right, we're gonna have one hell of a badass postal service then. And then Germany just didn't care, and World War II happened, and you know, now we have the Kar98. Lots of differences between these rifles, and everybody knows what the Kar98 is, but not everybody knows what the VZ24 or the pre-war commercially available post office Mauser is. This particular one does not have the post office markings on it, but for all intents and purposes, I'm just going to call it the post office rifle because it's entertaining as hell that Germany made guns for non-military service, and they made a lot of them. All right, so the VZ24, comparing this to the German Mausers, the wood handguard, the upper handguard comes back all the way to the front of the receiver here, whereas on your German Mausers, they simply do not. I'm noticing that the lowest zero setting on the German Mauser is 100 yards versus the VZ24, which is 300 yards. I imagine that the VZ24 was still taking a note from the playbook of World War I, where people were thinking that combat was going to be taking place at much greater distances than it actually was going to be taking place at. The advent and invention of smokeless powder and pointed bullets and things like that meant projectiles were able to touch out to way, way greater distances. But us being humans, we still fought at, you know, a maximum distance. Well, not a maximum distance, but an average distance of about 300 or so yards. That was the normal combat distances, and a 300-yard zero with this rifle right here does make sense in that aspect, but there were plenty of times where combat was taking place way closer than 300 yards. Germany saw this, and they ended up just adopting a 100-yard zero, which a lot of militaries did during the time period of, you know, around the World War II era. The German Mauser does not have any front sight hood protector before World War II. During the war, they actually did adopt a front sight protector. It was a hooded front sight. This rifle does not have it, but you can see how there's little slots on the sides of the front sight where that hooded area, that hooded front sight protector would slide on. And we would be able to keep the front sight safe. And those little slots are not there on the pre-war Mausers. Little difference between the pre-war and current war, or later developed in the war Mausers. The front nose cap on the pre-war Mausers and early war Mausers are going to be kind of an H style, whereas they moved to a much more simple, solid cap during the war. They were like, you know what, that's a cosmetic thing, we don't need it, let's go ahead and just ignore it for the most part. Now, one thing I will point out that I myself was not really thinking about until I actually needed to use it. I have an original Gewehr 88 sling right here. That's a joke. Somebody out there is gonna panic. They're like, that's not a Gewehr 88 sling. Yeah, I know, I got it off of Amazon. I appreciate your enthusiasm though. But I have this sling right here, and I was trying to attach it to this Kar98, and I was like, wait a second, this is not gonna work, because the sling is just one of those quick detach, you know, slings that I use to carry multiple rifles out to the gun range. But there's no sling swivel on the stock of the Kar98 here. The Kar98 is made for a very particular, specific kind of sling, whereas our pre-war Kar98 has more of a traditional sling swivel on it. It would normally have one down on the bottom of the stock as well, and it is not currently there. This rifle is, hell, 100 years old at this point. And the VZ24 has a good selection of all sorts of different sling swivels, depending on whether or not you want it over your shoulder, over your back, and wherever it is that, however it is, whatever configuration it is, you feel like sticking your sling on this. So this is the rifle that I ended up slinging up to walk out here. The VZ24 and the early Kar98s, the early short Mauser 98 patterns all have these flat butt plates on them, whereas during the war, Germany discovered that that was not exactly the strongest system, so they actually moved on to a cupped butt plate, just like this one right here. This one's made of aluminum. It is a reproduction. Everything else on this Kar98 is original. Let's see. All right, I'm noticing that on the stock of the early Kar98, we have this little slot for your fingers to go ahead and rest into the rifle and grab onto the rifle. And on the stock on the later war, this right here is the plywood model. This is a 1944 production. This right here is a mid-war rifle. Not quite the end-war, last-ditch rifle, but definitely a lot of differences between the two rifles. I can't remember the point that I was just going to make, so I'm just going to hold the rifle right here and hope that you guys see whatever the hell that I was just talking about. I'm also noticing curved bolt handle on the later war Mausers, and the Kar98 in general, just in an effort to make it a little bit more compact, they did add the curved bolt handle. That does make it easier for scope systems and whatnot. This also still has on this stock right here the firing pin removing system, whatever it is that you want to call that right there. In the back of the stock right here, way later patterns of Mauser would actually just kind of drill a hole over here in the butt pad to where if for whatever reason you needed to clean your rifle as in-depth as that, you can. They also completely removed the ability to have a cleaning rod attached to it. This Kar98 does not have a cleaning rod. The VZ24 does not have a cleaning rod, but every single one of these rifles would normally have a cleaning rod on it. Okay, well, I am out here. I'm noticing that the VZ24 is actually quite a bit thicker. I think that's just because the feeling of the upper handguard, but the upper handguard is also bulged around the front side or the rear sight. So I think that attributes to just it feeling like a thicker, girthier rifle. They're all Mauser 98 actions. They all feed from an internal magazine. They can hold 6 rounds, the rifle can, but normally they just feed from 5-round stripper clips. This is all Turkish ammunition, surplus ammunition that I'm firing from this, so might have duds, might have hang fires, but it should be 197 grain projectiles, and they're all the same ammunition, so we shouldn't see any significant differences between these rifles. Since this is zeroed out for 300 yards, and I'm only at about 100 yards, I'm gonna aim under the target with this rifle, and we're gonna see where this hits. All right, I'm gonna center around downrange. Here we go. And I think I hit my target, but I can't see where. That's the only downside with my eyesight. I can't see where I'm actually hitting the target at. I think I'm hitting center. All right, so I've got probably about, I'm holding a foot or so under the target, and I see some black marks starting to appear in the center of the target. This is just painted steel that we're sitting at, or shooting at, so I should be able to at least somewhat distinguish where my rounds are hitting. I'm gonna send more lead. I'd like to think that I'm making the shots that I'm wanting to make here. These are some heavy projectiles though, and Turkish ammo is loaded notoriously hot just because of the storage conditions that it was in, and the recoil on it is quite on the stout side, but I'm gonna bite the bullet. As a matter of fact, I'll go ahead and find me a bullet. Ha! Bite the bullet and just keep doing what I'm doing here, because I enjoy 8mm Mauser is probably one of my favorite rounds to shoot, dude. The guy that owns this rifle, I keep asking him, hey, do you want to sell that rifle yet? You know, hey, I really like that BZ. Hey, I really like how accurate that. Hey, I'm a big fan of 8mm. And last time I asked him, he was like, hold on, let me look out the window. And I was like, what? And he was like, oh, sorry, I was just trying to see if there were pigs flying yet. All right, that one might have been a little low. Since I'm holding so far under the target, I'm not 100% positive on where I'm going to be hitting there. All right, there's our 5 rounds, and this does not hold the bolt open with every round of ammunition by the feel of it. Yeah, I'm going to go with no. So let's walk down there to our target, see what that looks like. I'll spray paint it, and we'll move on to the early war Mauser. I remember this early war Mauser having some issues with the cone of fire with it. I mean, this is just an old Mauser, and it's been through a lot, guys. This Mauser's literally been through all of World War II and everything that came after it. Who the hell knows what this Mauser has seen and done? But I remember this Mauser not being all that accurate, but hey, why the hell not? We'll go ahead and put some rounds downrange anyway. So let's wander down there and see how the VZ24 did. Okay, here's our target. We got 1, 2, 3 hits and a 4th one right there. I'm not sure how well it's gonna come up on camera. It actually came through our debris right here that we have holding this thing up. So there's number 4. And number 5, like I said, I think I was a little bit too low on that one because I didn't hear the clink of the steel. So 1, 2, 3 right there. That's roughly center target. This VZ24 is quite accurate if you can figure out the holdover, and it appears that I don't quite have it down. I just need more practice with it, and that's all the inspiration I need to shoot this thing much more before I give it back to my buddy. So I'll probably get around to doing that. I'm going to spray paint this target, and we're going to move on to our pre-war Mauser. Okay, now we're going to rock the pre-war Mauser. The stock on this thing, the finger cuts are much sharper. I mean, it's not going to cut you or anything like that, but the VZ24 is definitely a lot more comfortable to hold. This also doesn't feel nearly as bulky. The stock on this just doesn't feel quite as thick as the VZ24 does. So, same ammunition, 5 rounds of Turkish surplus. We're gonna go ahead and send this lead downrange. With the 100 yard zero, we're at about 100 yards. So I'm just gonna aim, for the bottom of the target because I still think that this thing's gonna shoot a little bit high, but I'm not gonna have nearly as much of a hold under the target as I did with the VZ24. I was like a foot to 18 inches under the target with that thing right there. So now I'm just gonna aim at the bottom of the target. We're gonna launch some lead and see where we hit. I have no idea if we even hit our target. I'm gonna send another round downrange with that hold and see if we're even hitting our target. I ought to check to see if this rifle's key holding, honestly, but I didn't do that. I heard us hit our target that time, so we are probably hitting our target. I'm not sure if we hit it that time. I'm just aiming for the same exact spot. I was gonna go down there and see where we're hitting, but I heard it hit at least once. That's good enough for me. All right, let's send one more round because that's all I have in this mag here. Okay. I was aiming for the same spot. Let's go down there and see just how much of a cone of fire we have down there. All right, I figured that we had at least 2 good hits on target. So aiming for the bottom of the target, looks like we are still hitting a little high. I have 2 extra rounds. I got a total of 7, and I want to say 5 for the Kar98. I'm gonna go ahead and aim a little bit lower and see if we can get, you know, more center shots, because we may have had some rounds go over top. But it's very clear that the cone of fire of this rifle is not nearly as good as the VZ24 is. So I'm gonna aim a little bit lower, and we're gonna see if we can get a little more center. I'm gonna go ahead and leave these rounds right here, though, so we can see if we can see what kind of group we get whenever we actually hit our target. I imagine our other rounds are probably just going over top right there. So a little lower, 2 extra rounds. Let's see what happens. All right, this rifle is a little on the special side, so I'm gonna give it a little bit of special treatment, and we're gonna go ahead and give it a few extra rounds. I got 2 extra rounds in my pocket, and I'm gonna aim probably about 6 inches under the target versus just the bottom of the target like I was before. We're gonna see what these rounds hit. Well, that one smacked the target. I saw the target fly around like I was trying to escape. So 6 inches seems to be a good golden spot. I'm not sure if that second round hit the target or not. I was aiming for the same spot. Let's wander down there and see what we're looking like. All right, well, we did, in fact, hit both of our rounds. They hit a little bit to the right. I was aiming probably about a foot down, but I was aiming for the center. This one hit pretty far in that direction. I said before on a previous video that this rifle has about a 6-inch cone of fire, so I'm not surprised about this. But we got 1, 2, those were our first 2 shots, and we got 3 and 4, those are our second 2 shots. They are closer together, though, for what that's worth, but yeah, that's a pretty far point of aim. So let's go ahead, and I got 5 rounds left. We're going to swap over to the actual Kar98 Wartime Production 1944 and send some rounds downrange. I'm going to go ahead and spray paint this again, and we'll see where the Kar98 is hitting in comparison to the early commercial Mauser. I'm not going to knock this with the early commercial Mauser because the rifle's been through a lot. If it was a new production rifle, then I would definitely tear it apart. All right, back out here at the 100-yard line. In the time that I've owned this rifle, I've done a lot to it. This right here I actually bought sporterized for like 180 bucks from a gun store. Probably back in like 2018, maybe, roughly around that time period. And since then I unsporterized it. I got probably about 400 bucks into this rifle, and for a World War II production Kar98, that is not bad. So now, 100-yard line, I did get some Fed Arms ammunition, and I was told from Fed Arms that their ammunition was non-corrosive. But lo and behold, it was in fact corrosive. So this rifle did get some rust in the boring. I didn't notice until it had already rusted. So I have no idea what the accuracy of this rifle is actually going to be. We're going to go ahead and find out here. Oh, right, there's no finger grooves on this thing. I was trying to find them and I was all confused as to why I couldn't come across them. Let me send some lead down range. 100 yards, 0. I'm just going to aim from the bottom of the target. We're going to see where we hit. Since I only have 5 rounds left, I'm going to go ahead and do like 3 rounds, see where we're hitting, and then I'll adjust for the other 2. I think that hit our steel. I'd like to believe at the bottom of my heart that hit our steel there. I have no idea if that hit our steel or not, honestly. Okay, I have no idea where this rifle's hitting, so I'm gonna wander down there and see what we're looking like, and I will be right back. Okay, well, I did 1 round at regular aim point in the center of the target, 2 rounds down low, and we got a bunch of crap and debris on the bottom of the target, and 1 solid hit on target. So I'm gonna assume that this rifle is hitting exactly where it is that I'm wanting it to hit. So I'm just gonna aim for the center of the target, and we're gonna see what that freaking steel silhouette looks like by the time I'm done here. Yeah! I think we just smacked the dead center of that target, aiming at the center. Let's do that again. Okay, let's wander down there and see what that target looks like. Oh boy, let's have a look at our target here. So, oh Nelly, go ahead and get down here. This one right here, I saw that I hit high whenever I was aiming down towards the center. Whenever I aim at the center of this target, I tend to aim for this side because if I do hit high, I want to be able to actually hit something. And there's no steel right here for me to be able to hit. So I saw that I hit high, so I adjusted down to about 3 inches or so. And then we got a shot here and a shot here. I probably pulled that. I'm tired at this point and dehydrated. It's like 98 degrees out here in the Florida sun. But then we have 2 rounds, actually 1 right here and 1 right here. And these came through the debris on the bottom. So that's whenever I realized aiming at the bottom of the target, I was hitting the debris. So this rifle does not shoot nearly as high as I thought that it was. I'd say about 3 inches high, and aiming down at the bottom 3 inches is about right there. So that's a good rough guesstimation with this rifle right here. So this one right here seems to shoot about 3 inches high. The early war, the pre-war Mauser seems to shoot literally in every direction. And the VZ24 seems to shoot probably about 18 inches or so high. So that makes sense with the 0 points that we have, but I am pleased with that accuracy. All right, I went ahead and I cooled down, I rehydrated, got back on my feet, and grabbed some more ammunition. I swapped out the Turkish stuff, which is known to not be that great, for some Romanian surplus. It's steel case ammunition, but it should still be better than the Turkish stuff. So I've actually never ran this stuff through this Kar98. That's what we're going to be using it for, the Kar98. I want to see what kind of groups I can get now that I know where this rifle is actually hitting. And I did not want to use the Turkish stuff because Turkish stuff, like I said, is notorious for not being all that good. This rifle does not cycle, well, it does not extract steel case ammunition very well with what I've tried. I've never tried Romanian stuff, so this is kind of a two-part experiment to see whether or not this Romanian stuff that I have is going to run through this rifle. Let's go ahead, send some lead downrange right there at the steel silhouette, freshly painted. And I'm going to see what kind of grips I can get here. All right, that one right there, I think I pulled that a little bit to the left, and that extracted just fine without worries. Awesome, because I got a fair amount of this stuff. Huh. My heart is racing out here in this, I think it's like 98 degrees out here right now. I'm in the shade, and we got ourselves a little bit of a breeze, which is nice, but man, it's almost unbearable out here. We got a heat wave coming through, and we're in Florida, and in my day job, I'm working in 25-degree weather. So my God, this is absolutely miserable. All right, send another round. Why the hell not? Okay, that one might have been a little bit low. Let's go again. All right, let's wander down there, see what we're looking like. I'm expecting one to be low and one to be a little bit on the left side, but for the most part, I think I stacked those. Well, not right on top of one another, because my eyesight is a big limiting factor. But let's wander down there and see what we're looking at. All right, I'm going to assume that this stuff does not hit nearly as high as the Turkish stuff does, and it probably hits more like right on target. Because aiming at roughly the bottom of the target, this is all we have. We got a little cluster of shots right there, and that's pretty far low there, and then one really high and to the left, like I said it was going to be. I'm going to go grab some more ammo, and instead of aiming, you know, down low trying to compensate like I was for the Turkish stuff, I'm just going to aim for the center of the target. Let's see where this Romanian stuff hits in comparison to the Turkish stuff, because not all ammunition hits in the same spot, and we are seeing that right here. All right, same verse, second story, same song. Oh God, I'm tired. All right, I'm out here, same ammo, same rifle, same distance. I'm gonna go ahead and do the same exact thing that I just did, except I'm going to aim at the center of the target versus aiming down below, you know, like I was. And we made a lot of shots on the target that were, you know, really low, as we saw from the debris and whatnot that had actually hit the target from the ground and whatnot that we were hitting. So Turkish ammunition seems to fire high in this rifle, and this stuff seems to not. So I'm just gonna aim for center, and we're gonna see where we hit. All right, I'd like to think that we hit our target. No idea if we're hitting our target, but I'm gonna keep sending lead. That one I know I missed. Either I missed it or we had one that was a little bit further left than I would like to admit. Because that one right there, I did pull a little left. And one more. I like how, well, this rifle cycles this stuff. Okay, let's wander down there and see how we are. All right, one of these rounds was a little bit higher than I would have liked, but there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's our 5 hits on target, and this right here seems to be hitting basically right where I'm aiming at. So Turkish surplus, a Kar98, at least this Kar98, hits about 3 inches high, and this stuff right here seems to hit basically center, where it is that you're wanting it to hit. So not counting this one right here, and I knew that I kind of had one a little bit higher than I would have liked. Not counting that one right there, I mean, that's a fist-sized group at 100 yards with this old rifle that's been through the worst half of World War II, so that's actually pretty good right there. It is currently 90 degrees down here. I don't know if that's popping up on camera there. Feels like 100. Yeah, I've noticed. It is absolutely scalding out here. No, it's 93 degrees out here. Yeah, I figured it felt hotter than 90. 90 was this morning. 93, feels like 100. My God, yeah, you don't say. This was a good time until it stopped being a good time. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. Kevin's my peacock. I got 4 of them. If you don't know who Kevin is, welcome to the channel. They're very noisy birds. So yeah, this was a good time, but I think I'm done shooting for right now. It's a little on the scalding hot out here, scalding hot side out here. I already had a stroke last year. I'm not looking to have a heat stroke. So, yeah, good accuracy, fun rifles. I think that I've covered everything I wanted to cover here. Now I gotta clean these rifles because the ammunition that I did fire was corrosive. Little tip and heads up, even if you fire non-corrosive ammunition and you're shooting any kind of old military surplus rifle or any rifle that is basically made of a metal that can rust, make sure that you wipe down your bolt handles where your hand is gonna be, especially if you're in a situation like I am where you're just sweating all over this thing, because there's salt and whatnot in your sweat, and it will cause the bolt handles and whatnot to rust, and you definitely don't want that, especially if you have a good looking rifle like these ones right here. This pre-war Mauser right here, this is an absolutely gorgeous example of a Mauser, and it's actually made by Mauser. How do you like that? This is a beautiful rifle, and I definitely don't want to get even a speck of rust on it. So just like whenever I shot it before, I'm gonna freaking scrub down every inch of this and then lace it with oil. I'm gonna go hydrate first though. Water sounds good. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. Thanks for watching. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. The description down below has linked to all sorts of stuff. If you want to support, I do have a Patreon page. That would definitely help out. If you can't help out financially, then I understand, I get it, especially in the economy that we have going on right now. Subscribing, liking, sharing will definitely help out plenty. That being said, you guys have a fantastic day. Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.